Hey guys, I've never done this before, but I'm Charlie Poe, and I'm going to talk to y'all a little bit about how to use minor sevens, major sevens, and dominant sevens in your songwriting. Okay? Now let me first say, growing up, I never had guitar lessons, I never had piano lessons, and so a lot of you watching this video probably know more than me. And if you know more, and if I say something wrong, or if you have something to add, then please put that in the comments of this YouTube video, because hey, we're all learning, okay? But I created this video because I was scouring the internet. How are all these musicians doing major sevens, minor sevens, dominant sevens? How do they know when to put them in their songs? And I found several videos, a couple of Reddit threads, and I kind of compiled everything into this video. This video is for the songwriter, okay? And so it's not going to be about what makes a 7 chord a 7 chord. It's going to be about how to use 7 chords in your songwriting. Okay, so here's a little bit of a preview. So I'll play Amazing Grace. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. That could be made way cooler by adding what's called dominant sevens. Okay, and maybe you at your church or wherever, or you've just heard a pop song or a folk song, you've heard some weird chord that just sounds like, where did that come from? And it might have been a dominant 7. So I'll play the same thing. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. So see, that song was way more colorful. It sounded kind of like gospel in a way, all right? It sounded like kind of different, okay? So let's get started talking about how to use these. First of all, you need to be a little bit familiar with the Roman numeral system. I'm going to use that. You can probably just Google it. You'll probably just get the gist of it from this video. But instead of saying, in the key of C, G7 works. That's only going to help you in the key of C. So instead, what I'll do is I'll say, in a major key, the 5 as a 7 works. All right, so we're going to use the Roman numerals. Okay, so a quick overview of that is in C. I'm going to march my way from 1 to 7. So here's the 1 chord is a C. The 2 chord's a D minor. All right, the 3 chord is a E minor. The 4 chord is an F minor, an F major, and then the 5 chord's a G major, and then the 6 chord's an A minor, and then the 7 chord is like a B diminished. I never use diminished chords. I'm not really going to refer to them at all in this video, okay? But you've probably seen all those chords together in the key of C, but also in the key of G, you've probably seen those together. So you notice that certain chords go well together in the key of G and the key of C. And so how the Roman numeral system works is the 3 relative to the 1 is going to sound the same and feel the same no matter what key you're in. It's just like how you add a capo. You know, you play a C without a capo, and then you add a C right here, and now you're playing the key of D. But that's kind of what the Roman numeral system happens. It's kind of like using capos to talk about our songwriting. Okay, so without further ado, let's talk about how to use these chords. First up, we're going to talk about major sevens and minor sevens. Okay, so major sevens and minor sevens, people kind of say that makes the song sound jazzy, or that makes the song sound sexy, okay? So like, if you hear a song and you're like, oh, that's baby making music or whatever, it's probably got a lot of major sevens and minor sevens in it. So one example is Daughters by John Mayer that has minor sevens and major sevens. It sounds kind of jazzy, okay? He could have done a B minor like this, but instead he did it as a minor 7 like this. And that just sounds kind of like jazz, Okay, so the key for doing major sevens and minor sevens, and I'm not going to talk about how to play it on the guitar, you can always Google that. I'm going to tell you about when to use it, is you can stay in key by changing every chord to one of these, except for the 5 chord. Okay, so let's play something in the key of A. I'm going to play just something in the key of A. Here's A. And I'm going to march my way up the Roman numerals. That's the 3 chord, 4 chord, 5 chord. Now I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to change every one of those to its major 7 or its minor 7. So instead of A, I'm going to do an A major 7. Instead of a B minor, I'm going to play a B minor 7. Okay, you get the gist of it? So this is going to sound way different. Instead of, now it's going to sound like this. Kind of jazzy. Yeah, okay. So I told you that the 5 chord cannot be turned into this. I'm going to show you what happens if I try to do this with a 5 chord. It's going to be right after this. Here's the 5 chord. Did you hear that? It sounded like I left the key. Like I was in the key of A, and then whenever I did the 5 chord as a major 7, it sounded weird. I'll show you again. The last one just doesn't sound right. So if you want to stay in key, the 5 chord, you need to change to what's called a dominant 7. Okay, so I'll do the same thing. So now it sounded more like a dominant 7, or here's an E dominant 7. Okay, so this is going to get us to dominant 7s. So major 7s, minor 7s, you use those as baby making sex music that sounds all jazzy. That's how you use major 7s and minor 7s. Okay? And the 5 chord has to be a dominant 7. You can't play that as a major 7. So now we're going to talk more about dominant 7s. Now the first rule for using dominant 7s is that anytime you use the 5, just like we just did, that could be a dominant 7. So in the key of C, it's 5 chords in G. So I'm going to play the G as a dominant 7. It works. Or in the key of G, a D7. And that's where you see this most often in Beatles music, is whatever key they're in, they'll just turn the 5 chord into a dominant 7. And why? Why don't we just use, in the key of G, why don't we just play a D? Why is it a D7? What's the point? The point is that the dominant 7 chords builds tension, and that's the main point, okay? So in Amazing Grace, like I played earlier, that 2nd chord added tension because that is not in the key of C. I'm playing in the key of C, but this C7, C dominant 7, it feels like I left the key. I need to resolve it. And so then when I played F, you're back. So that's when you're going to use a dominant 7, is whenever you want to build tension and then release it. So the first way is that any 5 chord can be a dominant 7. But what I just played, I played the 1 chord as a dominant 7. So that's going to get us to our next trick. You can always do, how do I say this? This is hard to word. When you're about to transition chords, think about that chord's key. Like I was transitioning to an F, so think key of F. What is that key's 5 chord? That can be a dominant 7. So let me explain what I mean here. Okay, so I'm playing the key of C. I want to go to G. So from C to G. And I can transition by adding think, what is their 5 chords in their key? In the key of G, 5 chords of D. So before the G, I can do a D7. And then the C's 5 chord is a G. So I can play a G7 before I get to C. So. And what I'm doing with these dominant 7 chords is I'm adding tension and then releasing tension. Okay? Now, you can leave the key if you want. There's no D in the key of C. But you can play a D7 whenever you're about to get to a G. So another thing is, let's say I'm playing the key of C and I want to go to A minor. That transition, any transition, you can add a dominant 7. Think, in the key of A, what is its 5 chord? It's an E. So to transition to that A minor, I can do an E7. Oh, it sounds good. I'm going to go back to C, so I'm going to play a G7. And that's when you're going to see this most in Beatles music and stuff like that. Okay, so for example, I'm going to play Something by the Beatles. Not just a song, but the song called Something. That's in the key of C. Something in the way she moves. That's a C major 7. Attracts me like no other lover. So the reason that works is because you are going to go to an F, and so you can precede that F with a C dominant, a dominant 7. So that's C, C major 7, C dominant 7, F. All right? So this is when you're going to see this most often, and especially in Beatles music and gospel music and hymns, is think, what chord are you about to play? And then think of its relative 5. So another good one is Hey Jude. So Hey Jude is in the key of D. And in the chorus, it's anytime you feel the pain. It starts with a D7, because you're about to go to G. So I'm in the key of D. Anytime you feel the pain, hey Jude, refrain. Don't carry the world upon your shoulders. So I played an A7 because I was about to go to a D. So trick 1 is that any key, its 5 chord can be a dominant 7. Trick 2 is transitioning. You can transition with that chord's relative dominant 7. The next trick is also transitioning, is you can build what's called a false tension. Oh, it's real tension, but instead of resolving it, like we did just now, you're going to instead go somewhere else. So I'm playing in the key of C, and then D7, I need to go to G. Oh, I want to go to G, but instead I go to F. And it has a different feeling, like you expect you're going to go somewhere, and you go somewhere unexpected, and it sounds really good. So you did not really resolve the tension that you just built up, as if I'd gone to G, like it wanted me to. See, that time I went from D7 to G, and I resolved the tension. But before, I went from D7 to F, and I did not resolve the tension in the same way. Your brain thinks you're going to go somewhere else, it thinks you're going to go to G, but instead you go to F. So these dominant 7s, they build tension, and they also build an expectation. And you can subvert that expectation, okay? So now I'm going to teach you the last trick for dominant 7s, and this is going to be the easiest. It kind of sounds okay if you change every chord in the key, or every major chord, to its dominant 7, and it kind of works. So for example, in the key of C, if I just do C dominant 7, and then instead of going to a G, I do a G dominant 7. And then instead of an F, I'm going to do an F dominant 7. That's the easiest. I don't have to teach you that. You can practice this on your own. So hopefully you feel like you've gotten an idea of when to use the major sevens, the minor sevens, the dominant sevens. Dominant sevens are the hardest, but I also think they're the most kind of like rewarding. So people that are into songwriting, sometimes it just seems like all they ever do is dominant sevens. That's because it's fun and because it's kind of hard to learn, and it'll feel really good whenever you start putting more dominant sevens into your songwriting, okay? Major sevens, minor sevens, that makes stuff jazzy. Think like baby making music, as they say. Hopefully I'm not being really weird by saying that in this video. Anyways, this is already way longer than I wanted it to be. It's over 15 minutes, so good luck, have fun writing songs, and also don't stress out about it, because all the popular pop songs that sell millions and millions of songs, they don't have any dominant sevens. They're just regular 4 chords. So don't stress about this so much, because even the most famous songwriters and the most famous songs don't even really use these. But the Beatles do, so I don't know. Anyways, I'm going to end this video. I'm Charlie Poe. Leave comments, and yeah, that's it. Enjoy. Happy songwriting.